The following podcast is brought to you by Hardcore Grooming Products. Are you looking for a beard wash that's paraben-free hemp oil and perfectly cleans the beard as well as the skin? You know, hemp oil contains natural moisturizing properties. Therefore, it is the perfect ingredient for cleansing without drying. And you get a full, rich lather at no extra cost. It's Hardcore Grooming Products. You can use the coupon code DROPB, all capital letters, for 15% off of your purchase. And we are also sponsored by Red Sky Guitar Repair. Hit him up. He's in Scottsdale, Arizona. If you're traveling and you have an emergency, he can take care of you. Or if you're in the local area, stop on by, check out, and see what he can do for your guitar. And now, let's start the show.
Tonight, the episode your teens don't want you to see. Kids gone bad. Hopped up on nicotine and rock and roll. Juvenile delinquents with only one thing on their mind. Cool lingo and hot sex.
This is the Doom Tomb Podcast, the podcast for all things within the heavy underground. We're going overseas today for a Swedish psych doom metal band formed out of a mutual love for bands like Monster Magnet, Sleep, and Hawkwind. Here's the interview right now. Today, we are on a long journey. We are going overseas, and we're going to Sweden. Now, let me tell you something. I got this guy on the other side of the world, it feels like. And, you know, every time they put an album out, it winds up at the top of my chart. The last one, well, they had a split. And on top of that, the album before, it was called Seeds. And man, oh man, if you haven't heard that yet, you might want to even pause this and go back and check that out before you check this new release out. It's called Sonic Moons, and it's out on Magnetic Eye Records. Pre-orders right now. The vinyl looks amazing, and I have one of the band members from this band. His name is Martin, and the band is Domkraft. Sir, how are you today?
I'm very fine, thank you.
Fantastic. Now, I want to get right into this. Basically, the intergalactic journey will begin. This album, Sonic Moon, it starts out by easing your ears into this literal sonic blast that will have you just going into another dimension. And we started off with the first track, which is called Whispers. Now, one thing I've always noticed about the vocal is it is very earnest, and it feels like it has such incredible purpose. What can you tell me about that track?
Well, first of all, thank you for saying that. I'm not really sure to say about that track in particular, more than that we wanted to do something that had sort of a kind of open verse where you had a lot of like headroom, and because we already had this very typical like 2-chord riff that we wanted to sort of blend with something else. Right. Hence the sort of kind of mellow, if you want to say mellow verse that sort of increases in intensity a bit.
Yes.
And we actually, for the entire album, there's always this element of like some kind of, I don't know, if spacey vibe or what you want to call it, something that has sort of that is vertical more than horizontal in a way.
Absolutely, continuously uplifting, almost motivating to an extent.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah, and when what you mentioned with the vocal, I've noticed that with a few of the tracks that we're gonna get into, is there's something about the vocal that I'm unexpected by. I don't expect to hear you hit the syllable the way it hits, or it doesn't come in the space that I'm used to on some tracks, and that is so refreshing. Excuse me, because it keeps me completely on my toes.
That's cool. I mean, I think that could sort of stem from the fact that we listen to a lot of like psychedelic minimalistic music, where you have these like two chords going on and off, and it's basically more like chanting than verses at times, or it could be almost spoken word lyrics. And I think to some extent, what we're doing is sort of a combination of all of those things. I mean, since we don't regard lyrics that high, actually. So it's more about getting like the vocals to be like the fourth instrument, and make some kind of doing its own loops, in the sense that that it carries some kind of melody or structure.
Absolutely, and that heaviness and that structure continues with Stellar Winds. Now, again, the fuzz here, it's so strong. I'm telling you, this is the kind of track, it'll throw you right into space. Now, like I said before, again, the positioning of the vocal, the syllables, and it's just, it's sometimes when I hear the vocal, I feel like there's a borderline subtle hint of like David Gilmour. I'm sorry. Roger Waters, with more verb and more importance. Is that an influence?
Well, I mean, if you say David Gilmour for the guitar, that's most definitely an influence.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, I'm not the guy who's been listening most to Pink Floyd in the band. That's Martin, the guitarist. That's been his favorite band since basically forever.
Right.
But I guess there's some kind of, I mean, I haven't thought about it that way myself, but I guess it's basically also, like I said before, it's the same kind of structure, that it has to be some kind of, I mean, the Floyd tracks are so different. Sometimes it's really melodic vocals, and sometimes they just sort of a placeholders for something in the big pictures. And I think, that might be true.
So, what can you tell me about this track, Stellar Winds? How did it come about?
Well, actually, it started out because I think we came up with the main riff first, and it's kind of catchy in a way. It could easily be like very like driven kind of stoner rock punk song. Mm-hmm. But we wanted to add some more layers to it, because I mean, there's elements of a lot of things in what we do, but we don't really ever like try to go for just one thing. We want to add more like layers to each song, and I think it became a pretty fast song, at least for being us. It's actually rather upbeat. Yes. But it also has this, it's supposed to have this kind of trajectory in every verse, that it sort of lunges you into the riff. And I'm not really sure if it worked out exactly like we wanted it to, but I think it turned out cool. It's a kind of different song for us, at least when we try to like play it in our practice room for like upcoming shows. You can really feel like, okay, this is kind of different. I'm not really sure if the listener's gonna think of it the same way, but it's you're always too close to home to decide these things yourself.
Totally. And you know, when hearing this music, as opposed to like, I'm just taking your last full album, so Seeds. So like when I heard it, it's so completely full. And that also has to bring me to the production of this release. It is so on point. It is so in the pocket. You know, how did you go about choosing the people that were mixing it and producing? And
well, actually, it's the exact same setup as we did on Seeds. It's the same studio, it's the same guys recording, and it's the same guy mixing.
There you go.
But for this one, I mean, if there's a difference to Seeds, is that, like you say, Seeds was super big in its sound. There were so many, like, it was not like there were a lot of overdubs, but it became this kind of layered beast sound-wise. So we wanted to do something that was more straightforward for this one.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, you.
Okay, so when you kind of strip it back a little bit, does that make it easier for you to pull it off live?
No, I think both yes and no. I mean, the Seed songs are perfectly good to play live because we can do everything that's on the album live.
Right.
And it's the same with this, but it's more like to not do the exact two same albums in a row. I mean, I love Seeds too. I'm super proud of that album, but this is more. We wanted to kind of get a more in-your-face thing with this one. And I guess it's really small differences, and it's basically, I think a lot of those things are things that we perceive, but maybe not the listener. But I mean, yeah, going back to why we chose them is that like we love going to Welfare Studios. It's a really cool place in Gothenburg, which means that we can go away since we all live in Stockholm.
There you go.
So we go away for like, I think usually 4 days, including setting up stuff and then just recording for 3 days, and then we're done. And we recorded basically everything live. That's how we had to do it, because we could never try to play to like click track or anything like that. We just jam it out and do like a couple of takes on each song and pick the best one.
And it kind of also shows to me that you pick the right people to be with, to record with, because it goes through so seamlessly.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of when you do record in that way, I think the room and the vibe is really important. And they are great guys, both Pelle and Kalle and Per, who runs the studio, and they're both musicians in really good bands, so they know everything, and it's kind of just like home away from home going there. And then we think that Carl Daniel, who did the mixing for both Seeds and this one, and he's done an abundance of other great records, especially from Sweden. He has this way of picking like things that aren't there in the recording and make them present on the album. I don't know how he does things, but he's just insanely good. And he also captures this vibe of the album sounding live. I think there's life to his mixes, and
a ton of
so
it.
He was no good. There was not like no other choice for us. We had to go with him.
All right, and now we're gonna move on just a little bit to the next track, and that is Magnetism. Now here I am over here. You know, you have the first two tracks. They're burners. They rip. They shred. Fuzzy as can be. And now I'm like, okay, maybe there's gonna be a break here. And I thought maybe there would have been by the way the track started. Nope, I was wrong. Another huge slab of meaty doom.
Well, I think that's probably the heaviest and probably also like the darkest sounding track on the album.
Yes.
And I mean, that's a combination. A lot of our songs start that way, where Martin, who plays the guitar, has one riff and I have another riff. And then we both usually start out trying to make something both of those, but then we realize that they might even be better to pull together. So I mean, he has the opening heavy riff, and I came up with the like psychedelic long mid part riff.
Nice.
So that's a lot of our songs have been like started out that way, and I think it's almost a bit too heavy for the album as a whole. But I really like it because it sort of also gets the it makes the album a little bit more interesting to me, to sort of kind of change the mood a bit more.
Yes.
Than just keeping the same kind of mental level throughout the duration of the full album.
It makes a lot of sense, but I'm telling you, man, so far, like, we're going down this list and it's like everything is just killer. Just the material is just out of control, man. Which brings me to this next track, which is Slow Burner. Now, this is the first track I heard from you. I immediately got hooked in from the first few riffs. And now, by this time in the album, I wonder, am I ever going to get a rest here? I don't think that's going to happen in this album. I just don't. And honestly, along with the other tracks, I would love to see this one live. What can you tell me about Slow Burner?
Well, we actually played it live 2 days ago for, I think, the first time.
Yes. How was the festival?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, that's a really special festival. It's up north, it's Krakbacken in Sweden. They had their 10th anniversary, and they used to be just located in a gravel pit in the middle of nowhere.
Really?
And so there's like 800 people camping around the site, and then it's basically like Burning Man without the Burning Man stuff. So
yeah,
it's just really hedonistic, and it's kind of this outlaw vibe to it. But the guys who run it they are like just music lovers, and they always get the best sound. They bring out the best sound system, and the sound takes are amazing. So they changed the location this year to a bit more cozy place where we were playing just by a river. The stage was set just next to a river.
Yeah.
So we played at like 1 a.m. in the morning, and it was kind of like a late summer night. So it was perfect.
That sounds. It takes me back to the days of the Desert Generator Fests over here in the United States. Similar vibe, and it's like all these people that are around you, like that they didn't get they didn't win a concert ticket or whatever.
No.
It's like they wanted to be there. And honestly, so are you if you're playing in front of a river at 1 in the friggin' morning. So you played some of the new material. How receptive was the crowd to it?
I think they were very receptive, actually. We actually opened with Slow Burner because you could do like the opening riff for a minute before it kicks off.
Right.
In a live setting.
So true.
So, but yeah, going back to the track, I mean, that's by far the most straightforward track on the album. It's really traditional structure, and it's just a really good riff that gets the like juices flowing. And I mean, it's not one of my favorite tracks of the album, but it was I kind of knew when we got the mixes that this is what the label's gonna pick for the first single, and they obviously did.
Well, there you go.
I can't really blame them. Yeah.
No, not even in the slightest. And before we move on to the next track, when you were at the fest, was there any bands that you were, like kind of taken back by, or some people that you might have seen for the first time?
Well, the problem is that since we're all working and stuff, we could only be there for one night.
Right.
But so I basically only caught 2 other bands, but they were both great. The first one was the old, like classic prog band from the 70s called Kebnekaise. Mm-hmm. They're like total cult band. The earliest vinyls are super expensive if you want to go and get them, and I think all of the guys are in their like mid 70s to 80s.
Wow.
But they were just amazing. And then I caught Jonathan Hultén who used to play in Tribulation, you know, the death metal band.
Yes.
He's doing this really strange, but kind of beautiful. It's basically something like Diamanda Galas meets Nick Drake, and he's wearing costumes and feathers, and there's like flowers everywhere on stage, and he's solo just playing foot organ and guitar.
Wow.
And that's really daring to do that on a festival where most of the other guys are just basically dudes who walk up on stage in their jeans and riff. So,
but you know what? Nobody's going to forget him.
No, that's
you know?
true.
And
that was really cool.
So, what his vibe was? It almost like more of the, like say 70s glam rock, or maybe a little more gothic.
No, it's super gothic. It's just a solo. It's just him on stage. There's no band.
Wow.
So it's just him playing organs and doing a lot of effects. He's doing like these. He's using voice pedals. He's doing autotune things in a good way, because I fucking hate autotune. But if you use it basically like the Carpenters did, it could be cool, and that's what he's doing. It's really hard to define what it sounds like, but you should check him out on like Spotify or whatever.
Absolutely,
because
yeah.
It's really like brooding and beautiful stuff, and it was super cool to see it just next to the river, you know, at sundown and everything.
I was just going to say the connection with nature probably made it that much better.
Yeah, and I mean, the other days there's a lot of like riff bands playing. Basically, that's the core of the festival. It's like proto doom bands and both up and coming acts and a couple of bigger acts every night. So it's a really cool festival.
All right, you sign. I got to sign up. That's it. I just got to go over there and check it out. Probably next year, I guess. They just do it. They do it once a year.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, that would be great to take a little break from this weather over here. I don't know if you know this. We're melting over here in Arizona. That's where I'm based out of, Arizona, and it is. We just had a record last month for most days over 110.
Yeah.
So we got that going for us, which is a very big positive. The next track is Downpour. Now, to me, as I heard it, I felt that there was a little more of a psychedelic bent and a slight change in the vocal. Now, when I first heard this, it kind of hit me in a way that when I first heard the band Jane's Addiction years ago. It's motivating, like I had said earlier. There's a quiet solitude put right against the bombast, and can I even say this? Sexy? I'm thinking a little bit sexy.
Why not?
Yeah. What can you tell me about Downpour?
Well, it's not about this summer, but it could be. But basically that's a kind of different track that we just wrote. We did 2 tracks just before we hit the studio, and then we recorded both of them, and then we sort of decided which one was going on the album and which one we would save as a bonus track.
Right.
And this was one of them. And I really like it because I mean, you refer to Jane's Addiction, and I can see where you're going with that, and I can see why you do it. And I also get like, when I heard it when it was recorded, I got the vibes of like a band like, if you've heard them, and you will know us by the Trail of Dead.
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah,
oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the earlier stuff they did when they just had this, you know, assault of guitars and drums, and then there was still some kind of melodic hooks to the vocals that was going up and down, and I also think that the kind of the beat of the track is sort of in that territory. I'm not saying that it sounds anything like them, but I sort of got this vibe that we might have picked this up from listening to them like ages ago.
Sure.
But it's also a bit more. upbeat than like stoner and doom and sludge songs usually are.
Right.
And there's a kind of airiness to it. Plus and then it's basically a punk riff. That's the chorus. It's a Stooges riff in a way, because it's just got this like just downstroke assault, and I think it's a really cool track, and I'm happy that we picked that one to be on the album, because it sort of also comes as a good. If you said that you were looking for a break in the album, I think that's the break.
It doesn't last long though. Please, I'm telling you. It goes off, but I get a little taste where I can take just a like just one breath or two. But man, yeah. All right, so
but, I mean, also I just want to maybe I should say that we had this other idea that we wanted to have a bunch of kind of shorter tracks, at least around 5 minutes or less. Because for the past albums, there's been one track that has been under 5 minutes for all of those. All of the songs have been too long, so we try to like challenge ourselves to make them a bit more snappy, at least some of them, and that's one of them. And I think there's actually 3 tracks on side B of the album that are in that area, which is kind of good. It makes like doing set lists a lot easier, at least.
Yeah. And you're giving the audience something new yet again. All right, so we're going to go into this next track, Black Moon Rising. Loving the title here. The buildup in this track, absolutely sickening. And what can I say? I feel it turning. I don't know, man. I feel it turning. What can you tell me about this song?
It's basically that one riff. We stumbled upon this riff that was kind of infectious, and it's also, you have to play it kind of high, so there's not a lot of low end to it, because otherwise it just gets like sludgy. It has to have this sort of sharpness to it,
a little more crisp.
So well, we knew that we were going to end up in like this psychedelic inferno, and it was just about how to get the road there. Mm-hmm. But we played that live for the first time also 2 days ago, and that was a blast to play live, because it's I think it really gets people off, and I guess that's one of the songs that we might prolong in a live setting also. If the vibe is there, you can still just stay in the trance parts for a while.
Yeah,
which is what we sometimes do with songs. They tend to be a little bit longer in live settings if the vibe is in the room. But that's one of those tracks that could do it.
And that sounds
I really enjoy it.
It just sounds so intelligent to be able to create a song where, you know, when you're looking out in the crowd and I don't know, you see some slow headbanging, or you see the mighty metal claw that people have in the air as a sign of respect, or horns, of course, but I mean, it's almost passé now. Yeah. But, you know, you got this opportunity to say, hey, and you look to the left and look to the right and says, we're going to vibe for a little bit. And, we're going to break some necks tonight with them headbanging.
Yeah, I mean, basically, we have all of our songs, basically, when they have those kind of parts, someone has the cue. It might be the guitar who is the cue, or it's mostly often it's the vocals.
Right.
So I could basically just wait with starting to sing, and the other ones have to wait until I get there, and they just have to sort of stay in the like heft of it, stay in the zone until we get there.
Just keep it in the pocket and just keep going until you're like, all right, I'm okay. I'm ready now. Let's do this.
Let's do this. Yeah.
So I want to move on to this next track, The Burning Chill. this, I tell you, man, this rounds out the album right nicely. It's an epic track. It's probably, I believe it's the longest track on the album, and it finishes the album in grand fashion. Is that purposeful? Because it has this. I feel like the whole album has a similar theme, a similar sound, but this was almost like there was a little more quiet, and then it builds, but it kind of like. I ask this question a lot. Like, when you do the final track, do you put that track in that space because, hey, everybody, audience, this is what the future Domkraft is going to sound like? Or is it just you just felt it fit best in the album progression?
That's actually a pretty good question. I think we've kind of felt that way when we were doing Seeds, that we had to put the last song on that album that was audio done. We had to put that last.
Right.
But basically also because it sort of introduced something new. But I think when we wrote this, we knew that it has to be the first song on the album or the last song. It won't fit anywhere else.
Okay.
And we always tend to have a kind of long song to open the album also, because we like to sort of, I think we're all very like, we all agree that we want to sort of envelope the album within these two longer songs, and everything that happens is kind of compiled into these like starter and ending tracks. The main riff in that, the first time Jad from the label heard it, he felt like that's almost like a vintage Scorpions riff or something, like a classic hard rock riff.
Yeah, I can see that.
I really like that track also, and it was some of the tracks we do, they sort of kind of get themselves together in a way. Mm-hmm. It just made sense to do these like transitions, and that it should be long, and that there should be like these stops and breathing spaces and the heavy ending part. So yeah, I also think that's one of the lighter sides of Domkraft that we've sort of presented, because it's not super heavy, it's kind of rocking, and it's got these like almost wailing vocals, and I like it. I don't know if that was the opening question, but that's...
sometimes I tend to ramble, and I got an answer. It was an answer I wanted, so I mean that's a positive, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
So when you we talk about the vocal, and I've mentioned it a couple times already. What are your influences, Martin?
Vocally, you mean?
Yes, sir.
I don't know. I mean, actually, when we started Domkraft, we intended to be an instrumental band.
Really?
But then we kind of felt that we might want to add some vocals. And I've been singing in bands before, so that was like, I think that was the obvious choice that I had to do it, because I mean the other guys, I've played with them for way longer than we played in Domkraft, and I've never heard them sing a single note, so it sort of fell upon me to do it.
Okay.
But I mean, I really like, I think when we started, we said that we would like to have like vocals like the God Machine, mm-hmm. the old San Diego band, because they were heavy, but they were not specifically a metal band.
Right.
But which I don't think that we are either. We're a heavy band, but we're not necessarily a metal band. But it sort of made sense to have this kind of howling vocals, like more of like a hollering vocals, and I think they've sort of developed more into singing for each album. But that's like the basic idea.
The weird part about it is sometimes I hear people and they have that type of vocal, but it doesn't, it's just a very different meaning. Either they're telling you something with a loudness, I guess, or I don't know. I felt like the vocal in this album, it's like they're how can I say this? I guess again, motivating, but there's just like, I need to tell you about this, like right now, and I need you to be with me. Can you understand? And that's kind of what I got, and I'm like, yeah, I'm with you, man. I'll stick it out the whole album. I got you.
It's cool, but I mean that could come from like doing the mantra kind of chanting pieces. That, I mean, it's not like mantra vocals or it's not chanting vocals, but there are like elements of that. Where yes. I love to kind of just repeat one line with different intensities, and I think we've done that on basically all records to some extent. And I mean, yeah, that's probably what you're getting that from. But that is probably it. Yeah.
So, again, I didn't get a chance for this whole album to rest. Maybe that one track for just a little bit, just a hair. But I tell you, the whole thing, completely worth it. Yeah, I got a chance. I now have a chance to have one of my picks for Album of the Year. I did it with Seeds, and I'm telling you, man, this is top to bottom a absolutely killer release. It's hypnotic, and it's just masterful, man. I want to thank you for being on with me to talk about this, because I love hearing the process when I hear something this good.
Oh, thank you.
Now, by the way, I don't know who's I don't know who's in charge of this, but I just want to say thank you to the band, somebody, for turning me on to Spaceman 3.
Yeah.
I got through Sound of Confusion and The Perfect Prescription.
That's good.
Thank you. Was that you?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about them quite a lot.
Right.
They've been like one of the like main sources of inspiration for us. I'm not really sure if we've talked about it, but yeah, you're doing all right. Yeah, you should check. If you haven't come to Playing with Fire yet, you have something really good to come upon, because that's basically their best album, possibly, or at least the harshest one.
All right, I'm writing it down right now. Yeah, I was just going down the YouTube rabbit hole and see what I could find.
Yeah, but they're great. I mean, I love Spiritualized also, who they turned into.
Right.
But basically what they came with was this idea that you could do so much with so little. It's been done before them also by like Suicide and bands like that. But we still love the minimalistic idea of things, that it doesn't necessarily have to have more chords just because it's a song. We can stick with this one or two chords, and we can make it work anyway.
And I kind of felt that even like, going back to what we said earlier with Pink Floyd, there's some, like I don't know, just take a track like Mother or Hey You or something like that. Yeah. It's like simplistic, but says so much, and expansive at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've had a few albums here. You got Ascend, Descend. You got these the Split, Seeds, The End of Electricity, Flood, Slow Fidelity, and the self-titled.
Yeah.
Now, what are the chances of that getting repressed on vinyl?
I think that it will happen sometime.
Right.
I'm not really sure when, but we've been talking about doing it. But I think there's something beautiful with that not being that available, because I mean, we recorded that album ourselves and we released it ourselves. And I think it was basically at the same time that was released that we recorded End of Electricity, because we were just. But then after handling like sending back test presses and everything, I just decided that we had to have a label to work with. I'm not doing this again because I was totally new to everything, and it was I admire all the labels who handle that, but
it's exhausting.
Yeah, it is. It really is, especially if you don't have a clue what you're doing.
Right.
But yeah, it will probably be repressed sooner or later, and maybe. I mean, I think that a repress should come with something more.
Right.
Especially, I mean, if you're not Fleetwood Mac and you're not repressing like Rumors again,
yeah,
you have to add something.
Sure.
So there might be some like a bonus track or something for the next edition, I think, so that it will be at least a slightly different product.
Now, from the first release, are there any tracks that you play live?
Yeah, there is.
Okay,
we kind of, yeah.
I'm thinking like, is it a chance that I could see either Concrete Waves or Horses live?
I think Concrete Waves you have a good chance of seeing, because I think we've played that most of our shows. If there's a request for an encore,
mm-hmm.
that's usually the one we pick up, because it's a good way to end.
Yeah, and
the night, and we've also opened with it a couple of times because it's really. It's intense and chaotic in a kind of funny way.
Sure.
We used to play Horses to quite recently, but then sort of other tracks just you only have. I mean, we don't want to play too long sets. I think that yes, your attention span, especially if you're at a festival, 50 minutes is a maximum for a regular set. And I've seen a lot of bands that I've left because I've had enough. I mean, I love the shows. I would give them like 5-star ratings, but for me at that time and place, those 35 minutes were enough. So we sort of, that's the tricky part, especially if you have longer songs, to make a set like happen and sort of try to please every member of the band for starters, and then also to make sure that the listeners get kind of what they want.
Right. And yeah, exactly. And it's a deep pull, so people are like, oh, they're, and you got it on both sides. Either, they're opening up with something that goes way back, or they're finishing off with something that turned me on to this band. So yeah, that's always a plus for me.
Yeah. For a lot of people, it's like, what? I've never heard this before, but it might sound cool.
and it does. Now, sir, thank you so much for joining me. I have just a handful more of questions here because I'm curious. I haven't been over to Sweden, but I know some people that are Swedish, and they've told me about things. They've introduced me to things that I don't know if everybody likes, but we're going to find out. First question here is, have you seen the Codex Gigas? I'm
sorry?
It's called a Codex Gigas. I believe that's pronunciation is correct. It's a like, I guess it's like in a museum where it's some alternative Bible and they got like a picture of the devil in it.
No, I haven't, but
okay.
I'm not really sure where that is. It's in Stockholm.
It's in Stockholm, yeah.
I'm writing this down as we speak.
CODEXGIGAS.
Oh, that's cool.
Give me a place that has some good food that if I'm going over there, I got to eat. Where am I going?
Oh, that totally depends on what you want to eat.
As long as it could be hot. It could be cold. I really don't care. Anything. I'll eat anything.
It's really hard. I mean, I think you should actually, I'll give you this one tip, because basically it's one of my local restaurants, and that's where I go when I want to go out and have a drink in the week, which I almost always do. If I do it, I do it with the guy who does all of our covers, Björn.
Right.
And we go to this place called Löwenbräu, which is basically what you think it is. It's like a Bierstube, this like kind of German beer place, but it's looked the same since I think the 50s or something.
Wow.
They haven't renovated anything. It could be like the 70s also. I know for a fact that it's been there forever,
right.
And it's like classic, really, really meaty dishes, and totally like this really crisp German beer. And it's like an opposite reaction to everything else that is happening in a city like Stockholm, where everything has to be fresh and new.
Right.
And this is a place you can go to, and you can be alone if you want to, or you can sort of chat up, get in conversations with strangers if you want to. But it's that's my Stockholm recommendation.
That's nice. Now you mentioned Bjorn and the artwork.
Yeah.
Did you have a discussion? Were you looking for something specific for this artwork, or did he come to you? What was the process for creating the illustration?
But I mean, he's been doing all of our artwork since the first album, and I think that we just sort of discussed and said that we want to do something that is kind of has a space vibe to it.
Yeah,
and then he just basically did what he did. That's how we always work. But I mean, he gets the rough mixes and he listens to the album when he's sort of drawing. But
right.
He's not really a fan of this heavy music. He likes like reggae and G.G. Allen when G.G. Allen plays country, and he's
wow.
He has this really eclectic music taste, but it doesn't so much revolve around heavy stuff.
Okay.
So it's his own interpretation of what this genre should look like, and I think that's super fun always to see, because there's all of these like messed up things that probably shouldn't be there, but they sort of, when they're there, they make complete sense.
Yeah, when I first saw the album, I was like, oh, all right, that's cool. And then I don't know what was wrong with me, or maybe it's intentional, I'm not sure. But then all of a sudden, because I'm listening to the album, I'm going over it, and I suddenly see a face. Like, why didn't I see the face like right away? I wasn't, it didn't even hit. So I don't know if that was intentional by him, but I love seeing stuff like that. And then, you start to see, oh, okay, so the lettering is in this interesting configuration, and now it's all starting to flesh itself out a little more. Yeah.
I mean, I haven't seen the final vinyl version yet, but that's going to be spectacular, I think, because there's going to be metallic print and there's going to be fluorescent details on the cover also, which I know has given the the label a lot of headaches. But I mean, Björn does these. He always does these things for us for free, because basically he's a very well-renowned like designer, but he does this for fun, and then the least we can do is to make sure that his vision gets as like complete as possible. Like it was with Seeds, where he wanted to do something in 3D, and then we just had to sort of get the 3D stuff going.
That was so cool.
But yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing it and see if it turned out as good as we hope it will.
I'm sure it will. I'm sure. Magnetic Eye Records, man, they never drop the ball. They always got it going on good. So, okay. So here's something that one of my Swedish friends turned me on to, and I have to ask you, why is Turkish pepper so good?
It just is.
It just is.
Yeah. But I mean, everything that is sort of licorice and salt is great. It is
delightful. So, finally, just one quick thing, because I was looking at some things to do in Stockholm, and there was the Museum of Medieval. There's the Battle of Gotland in 1361. Some places to visit, maybe to see about culture, and I don't really have that over here. Like that I just, we have art museums and stuff, but nothing that goes back that far and shows that kind of vibe. I was wondering if, because you have that culture, does that ever come in and weave into your songwriting process or anything of that ilk for the musicianship of the band?
I think no, but I mean, to some extent, I think that we've heard from others, especially from like Swedish journalists and other people, that there's a folk music aspect to some of our like harmonies.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of the Swedish folk music goes way back. It's like, I'd say that there's like, I think there's echoes from the 17th century and stuff in that.
Right.
So to that sense, there's a kind of what do you call it? There's a bittersweet feeling to that music. It's sad, but it's beautiful in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for this is my first interview with long time, so my English is it's rusty. So I can't really find all the words.
I think everything's perfect. It's all good, brother.
Oh, thank you so much. But yeah, I think there's probably something, but I mean, we don't really. The thing that people do here when they go back into history to look for inspiration is that you either go to the ages where Sweden was at war, which was a long time ago because we've been neutral for so long, and that's what Sabaton does, for example.
Yeah,
and then you have all the Viking stuff with the hedonistic heathen stuff, and that's basically, I think that's most prominent within like power metal and possibly black metal to some extent, and also, of course, it was kept hostage by the Nazis for quite a long time. So,
right.
It's, I mean, we're not really that interested in we want to do something. I mean, as far as inspiration goes for lyrics, it should be something that is sort of timeless, or at least here and now.
That's perfect. Oh, well, Martin, thank you so much for joining us. The new album, it's going to be out real soon. It should be out by the time this hits. It's called Sonic Moons. You can pick it up through Magnetic Eye Records. Now, say somebody wants to tell you how amazing this album is. How can they reach you?
Well, I think they can reach us. We're not super active on social media, but we're there on Instagram as Domkraft, because apparently someone was already Domkraft. And we're also, I think we're on Facebook also. Yeah, we're on Facebook, but or you just drop an email. I mean, I think you should get the contact details. That should be easy to find.
I personally would rather just get a flight and go over and see you live.
Yeah, you should do that though. Why not?
Look, if I'm heading over there, I know there's another thing. One of my Swedish friends, he said something. There's some kind of, I don't know, some kind of vendor hot dogs that he loves. I got to try that. I'm not going to that place. I'll go to the other place, the Eifer. I'm going to go to your spot. I gotta load my fists up with some Turkish pepper, and we're gonna have a great time.
Yeah.
All right, Martin. Thank you so much, and just stick around for just a minute. We just got one more thing. Thank you so much, Martin, for hanging out and talking with us. And oh man, have you heard that album yet? Please, I mean, it is a full experience, and it is out now through Magnetic Eye Records. I'll tell you what, let's play the track that got me hooked on this album and so many others. I mean, come on, Seeds, absolutely amazing. The Split, holy smokes. So, okay, here we go. This is Slow Burner. Thank you so much for sticking it out towards the end. doomtombpodcast at gmail.com. That is how to reach us. You can get on and you talk about your song, talk about the whole album, whatever you want. It's all good. We're here for you. Thank you so much to Hardcore Grooming Products. The promo code is in the show notes. It's Drop B in all caps. Save a couple bucks and get your beard smelling great. And Red Sky Guitar Repair for all your guitar needs, based out of Scottsdale, Arizona. Hit them up. Link is in the show notes. Please like, subscribe, and tell a friend about the show. You know, we've been getting a lot of movement lately. I'm not exactly sure why. I don't know. Sometimes, things just hit, and we couldn't be more grateful. Thank you so much to everybody that has downloaded the podcast. And you can follow us on social media, DoomTomb or DoomTomb Podcast. Ian, thank you so much, my friend. From No Masters Audio, hit him up on Instagram. He does all things sound for the Doom Tomb. Now, if you like this kind of music, you should. Absolutely. Why are we kidding ourselves here? Head over to craniumradio.com. I have a show Sunday, 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can listen in. We're going to do some music. We'll do some talk. We'll do some whatever else we do. I don't know. You got to tune in and find out. All the links, by the way, in the show notes. And, I guess that's about it. We got another interview coming up really soon. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll talk to you. We'll probably see you at a show. If you're at that show, like I was talking to a band the other day, and they were so grateful that, now, I don't know, but they were so grateful that I bought their record while they were on tour. I thought that was pretty cool. So do that if you can. And, keep it heavy.